Welcome back to We Are Live. It's Chris Dim and Travis Sorrell, the great Chris Gardner, controlling the video stream with all of his video knowledge. Joined in studio at the Midcoast Studios by the great David Hunn from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. What's up, man? How are you?
I don't know, but you just called me great, so that's pretty cool.
You got to start it off right. I need you in a good mood before I just lambaste you over some of your stories.
Got it.
I have to set
the hard
mood.
questions are coming.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get really difficult as you politely come by our studio.
Gail King was tough. You ain't seen nothing.
David.
David.
That's my Gail. You can follow David on Twitter at David Hunn. That's Hunn. He's here to talk about some of the stories he's been working on. Recently came back from Houston, Texas. Yep. I'm interested in that. I've spent some time in Houston. I've never seen so many overpasses and concrete in all of my life. It's still a very cool city. They have a loop. Travis, are you aware of that?
Theirs actually is.
Another city has a loop.
That's crazy.
Who'd have thunk it?
No comparison. The loops are not similar. The loops are not similar.
What about do you think St. Louis could put on a livestock show like Houston does?
Oh, that is a big livestock show.
Boy, I've walked around that, and there's fried everything. And I think
it is fried everything. Yeah, and did you see
fried
the kids right in the
vino? Sheep? Yes, I did. Yeah, what do they call that?
Mutton busting.
Mutton busting.
And I understand that you have not lived until you have either mutton busted or put your kid on a sheep and set them wild.
What?
Travis, I know this probably isn't big in your community.
I was going to say, what? Growing up in North City, there was a lot of mutton going on.
You put a child on a sheep and say, go get him, tiger.
I'll tell you, the one thing that's really crazy cool about Houston is all kinds are on those sheep.
Really?
All kinds. I mean, not our age, right?
Oh, okay.
But like, if you fit the weight and age category,
boy,
you are on.
I would need a Brahma bull with just like some sheep fur on it to fit me if I were to be in the mutton bus.
What would the sheep fur be for? Just to try to pretend?
Use a white bull to make it look like, okay, well, big boy wants to play. We got him an appropriately sized sheep.
I tell you what, if you do that, we'd get video after that one.
Would you do a story on that for the most especially?
I mean, we'd do something on it.
He goes, nah, but I'd live stream you on my Twitter.
That cool?
You heard of Periscope? Probably get more hits than any of us have ever done. So I think we need to make that happen.
That is what gets crazy hits, the stuff that you do not expect.
Now, how fun is that when you like really put in serious man hours into a story that barely gets a retweet, and then
did you just say fun?
Yeah,
I'm not sure fun is the right.
Well, I think
I'm not sure fun is the right.
From my point of view, it looks like a lot's going. There's a lot of fun going on.
No, we definitely complain about that because it happens for sure. You spend like weeks deeply researching something, and then the guy on the
and then some cows get loose and run around in the city, and everybody's, oh, look here! Remember when that happened?
It did happen, and that's when the helicopters came out, Gardner, if you remember.
Well, that and the IKEA.
That's the only time helicopters come out in St. Louis for news coverage. Never due to high-speed chases, but if livestock gets free or IKEA is opening. That's the only time we've seen.
That's a staple of our city, Dave. So where did you grow up? What's brought you to St. Louis? What's the Houston connection? Let's get some background.
Right. So I was born and raised in California.
Nice. What part?
I grew up Huntington Beach is where I was born. But I was there till
typical elitist.
My God, that's why your disposition's so fantastic because you're from Huntington Beach. What a great area.
I was there for like 2 years, guys.
But no, hold on to it. Use it. We're obsessed with Southern California. We've been a few times. My younger brother and sister-in-law live out there, and
the beach. It never moves. It's always there.
Man, my favorite part about Newport, which isn't that far from Huntington, is the 51-year-old tech entrepreneurs with no shirts on at 10 a.m. throwing you the hey, what's up, guys? Because they're going to surf before they stroll into their office at noon. That's my favorite part about that area.
That's your favorite part?
Share. Yeah, it is.
Because that kind of drives me crazy.
We should all. Shouldn't we all aspire to be tech entrepreneurs surfing at 11 on a workday?
Oh, man, there's too many stereotypes about California that are true, and that is definitely one of them.
It's akin when you meet a true Southern Californian, and they're like, "What's going on, man?" And then they do the highway thing and all that. Yeah, I always think like
take the 5, get on the 405.
Right. That's or using the word rad in a sentence very earnestly is something that happens.
No, if you hit the 12th in and out, you've gone too far.
That's just my generation.
Oh,
the kids don't say rad anymore. Wait, hold on. Maybe they do. Is it coming back?
It could have came back by now.
That's rad lit. Does that work?
I don't. Maybe
No.
we're out of the
Okay,
genre.
no,
here.
we're too old.
I like that.
You like lit,
rad
lit?
Rad lit.
You should
Yeah.
use that in the stories that you cover.
That wouldn't get in. Somebody would remove that.
I don't know
who.
the
but
edits.
someone.
I don't think there's an editor that say, "Look, I think that's there." You think someone over there would actually?
You don't. I
go,
don't think you can okey doke a real editor.
Okay, you
No.
say so.
Yeah.
Say it with confidence. Try it.
So 2 years in Huntington Beach.
It's that is so true. Real. I mean, it's like they don't crack a smile.
Yeah.
Really? I thought that was that was like how the people were portrayed in the last season of The Wire.
It's
They don't
very,
think
It's
it's
like, oh, we're very stern journalists. I'm like, I've met a lot of nice journalists. They're not.
it's akin to athletics. Like you're gonna cut who's not that good, right?
So I'm running. I'm doing 2 editing shifts today and tomorrow, which is why I had some time this morning.
Oh, okay.
And I'm suddenly an asshole. As soon as I'm an editor, I'm like,
right.
yeah.
That's weird. How it
What,
just
excuse me. What is this?
Does it start at home? Are you married?
Yeah.
Does it start at home? You're like, this coffee's not acceptable.
Oh, are you suggesting my wife makes my coffee?
I wouldn't even. You could edit. You could self-edit. You could self-edit. I don't know. Maybe you got a kid. Maybe you got a housekeeper. You went with that. You ran with that.
My 4-year-old's not making my coffee either.
Well, sounds like they're a little behind.
That's actually a good idea. Gotta get him on that one.
You know, it'd be really fun.
got, like,
What's
2
the point of
chores.
having kids? Duh.
Scalding hot coffee for father in the morning. I don't see where this could end up.
You didn't read enough books last night.
So 2 years in Huntington Beach.
So at 3, I moved.
Yeah, we're gonna chop through this.
Yeah. So I spent most of my childhood in San Jose. So my pop was in
Way more boring than Huntington Beach.
Oh my
right?
God!
Yeah.
I mean, not kidding, right? So in San Jose, when I was growing up, was like orchards, and I mean, it was just like IBM was there,
Right.
a couple of the tech companies, but they were like just getting started. So it was it was like a, I'm sure I'll offend someone, but it was like a Chesterfield upbringing.
No, that makes
They're
sense.
starting their own county. Sorry, back to San Jose.
So I just talked to them. I haven't written this yet, but they decided that they
Scoop.
actually can't do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
Gardner, do we need to axe our T-shirt idea? I don't know.
Man, I just started selling the Chesterfield County T-shirts.
We have an apparel company 10 feet behind us. So.
Now, hey, listen, they may change their mind. Don't dump it yet. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe,
Okay.
but they looked into it and they decided that it was not a tenable solution.
But they have Top Golf there. I thought that could support an entire county. We'll look into that
I'm
further.
just not going to say anything at this point. I think that's better.
I love this guy already, man.
so-
It's so fun.
So San Jose for till I was and I went to school back to school in LA. So I went to UCLA for undergrad.
Very nice.
And that was, and then I definitely got my my LA groove on. I mean, I learned
Good
the
experience going to
405,
college.
I was
all that kind of
LA
stuff.
Groove seems very vague and open
love
to
that.
a lot of interpretation.
Yeah, right. Again, I should just be quiet. No.
UCLA, probably an amazing campus,
It was
a really
incredible.
good college experience.
Yeah. So I'm already plotting how I can get my kid to like really fall in love with the campus and then tell me he can't go there. So he really wants
Yep.
to go there,
That-
something like that.
And he would earn his way there.
And my wife, by the way, she went to University of Miami of Ohio,
Oh, wow.
Okay.
and she
Some
same love, right? Huge love there, and she is adamant that he's going to go to University of Miami of Ohio. So it's going to be a fight.
You guys are fighting over like if he's wearing a Wally Zerbiak.
You know what's going to end up
jersey
happening
or-
is he's going to be like, I really love plumbing. I'm going to be a plumber. I'm going to be cool. I'm going to be cool.
Hey,
with
I
that.
feel like being employed.
I'm going to be totally cool with that. So
I
we're,
love
we're,
that.
we're rehabbing a house in Maplewood right now, which is why I'm in my getup.
Oh,
And
I like that. Yeah.
and the plumbers are like insanely expensive. They're really good, and I like them a lot. So if they're listening right now,
We're big in the
not-
plumbing community.
Not bagging on them. We're big in the plumbing community, right? How about the drywallers? The drywall-
Working on that. We have to penetrate.
Because
We
I
got to
need
work
them
harder.
in soon.
We're gonna schedule things according to his rehab schedule. That's good.
Perfect. That's
yes.
even better. Okay, so San Jose, then Los Angeles, and then I was up and down the West Coast for a while doing newspaper jobs. I did Teach for America for 2 years.
Oh, very nice.
Taught
We're at in California.
Yeah, in LA.
Yeah.
And that was a life-changing
I
experience.
would imagine.
Yeah.
Wakes you up, I'm sure, when the things that we kind of take for granted, or you're just like, well, of course. Why?
So teaching is like insanely difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and getting ready every morning to be a teacher that day was really compelling and also absolutely terrifying. I mean, you're like an actor, you're a mentor, you have to be a teacher, you have to actually teach them something,
Right.
And that's,
what subject were you teaching?
English and
Yeah.
English.
Was it difficult, I guess, trying to decide how much of yourself to give to those students? Because it's easy to get attached to their
No,
lives and their
you're-
situation and everything else that goes
At that
along
point
with
in my
that.
life, I was all in. So it was not. I mean, it was wake to sleep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there was no. No, it was not difficult because I was doing everything I could. Now, the hard part is figuring out what you can actually do
Right.
is like,
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're working, I can see that where you see teachers just struggling to get notebooks or basic clean. I think the Care to Learn here in St. Louis, a great charity that will literally, they stay back and they just find out what kids in school districts need, basics, deodorant, soap, whatever, pencils for school. That like the things like that exist because there is that need in underserved areas. It's crazy and I'm sure seeing it up close is life changing for you.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it taught me a ton of things. I mean, one of them definitely is the state of our education system is,
Has it improved, do you think?
no.
I feel like we have more exposure on it now, but I almost like it feels like a digression at times.
So I haven't been in schools. I
Yeah.
haven't covered. So when I came here, I came here to cover schools.
Right.
Sure.
So I was in Teach for America. I came out and I covered schools for a little paper in California for a while, and then came here to cover schools. I covered every kind of school you can imagine. I covered the charters. I covered private schools. I covered St. Louis Public. I covered the county schools. I covered everything, and then I went to City Hall and covered City Hall. So since then, that was probably 2010. I haven't covered schools again. So I haven't been in classrooms except for my kids.
Right.
You know what I feel? I feel like so many things in our world. My kid's classroom is probably the best classroom I've ever been in.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's incredible. So there's like Lego tables on every corner.
Oh, wow.
Like these kids are completely, and they're all different walks of life. It's a surprisingly diverse community, which I love.
Right.
And they are. You walk into that classroom in the morning, and it's like I don't know how those teachers do it. They have those kids trained to like go to their table. The kids move from table to table. They're totally free to roam. They
Wow.
paint, they draw, it's 4-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not learning
I
calculus.
haven't heard any math or science yet. I'm a little concerned. Your kids just hanging out. No,
So
4-year-olds. That's great though.
Yeah, but
dude.
you should see what they're teaching them. I mean,
Right.
he can count to 100. I mean, that's what the teachers
he
are
still
teaching him.
can't. That's
Relax.
amazing.
He has trouble at 98.
Yeah, we're working with him though. I'm proud of him for making it that far.
Bless your heart.
So point being, on the other end, I feel like, so on one end, some of these classrooms are just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other end, I feel like, we don't even, like we're not, I mean, I've seen some really bad classrooms.
Sure.
I'm like at a loss for words.
No,
I
no,
can't
no,
even-
So
get it.
that's interesting because then what kind of perspective does that give you when covering government? Knowing that you've been on the side of seeing.
Oh, he's seen the seed
Right,
get
you
planted
see-
and then it's grown to whatever.
I
right?
worked in Jeff City, so being able to see it up close to go from a classroom and seeing how policy shapes what actually goes on inside of a classroom and then seeing the people shape the policy truly adds new perspective to the outlook of the situation. So what did that do for you when covering government?
I love what you're saying. I mean, I think it's true. So right now I'm covering Better Together, right? So this is the move to merge the city and county.
All this is available at stltoday.com, by the
you
way.
are-
If you just search out David Hunn, all his stories are here. And again, very
STLtoday.com.
talented writer.
Man,
Yes,
look
that's
at
right.
this. I love this. This is amazing.
We will invoice you.
Hey, bro, we got to keep the lights on, man.
So, yeah, I get it. Nice place. So, so to your point, Better Together. One of the things that I hear complaints about is like, hey, you can do anything you want. You can merge the governments any way you want, but if you don't improve the workforce, if you don't educate folks to become workers, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that argument resonates with me. I mean, I feel like my job is to truly understand everybody's point of view.
Right.
Like really work to see all their points. And that's a point I get. I mean, what are we going to do about schools? I hear a lot of complaints from folks who come up and say, hey, that's great that you're doing all this, but why aren't you fixing our schools? Why aren't you doing something about our school system?
It's insane if you think about it. City resident, I live in Tower Grove. There's a nice elementary school a few blocks from me. But if you just do some loops through, we'll just say the south part of the city. We won't even get into the north part of the city. South part of the city, all the shut down elementary schools. Just think of if those are vibrant, working schools, people would be able to walk their kids to class that day. What a crazy, novel idea. But you drive by all these just barren, giant, empty, beautiful brick buildings, and it's dead. And it's like that changes the dynamic of that entire neighborhood, which then affects everybody blocks over, neighborhoods over, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it seems insane that we don't have those working, right?
I mean, it's such a cycle, though, right? So, like, I mean, you look back at the history of St. Louis, and everything is tied together. And I don't want to get too deep into it because it's a pretty, it's a history lesson.
It's very much a history lesson.
Yeah, but it's, you talk about housing patterns, you talk about institutional racism, you talk about just overt racism,
right?
You talk about desegregation. I mean, I know these are heavy topics that I'm sure everybody has just turned off the podcast.
Feels fake. No. You talk about anything because it feels fake when you talk about this stuff, and you're like, dude, that was 50 years ago. Like, that feels like, oh, certainly that couldn't be a thing.
Man, Brown versus Board of Education, 1964.
Right.
We are not even a generation removed.
Right. So so here's the interesting thing, because I know now more than ever, especially print journalists, having to cut through so much of the fat, and because it's so easy for people to say, if it doesn't match your opinion or your agenda, it's fake news. So how do you try to get the answers from the leadership that's responsible for the state of affairs in a city? Like, how, especially in 2019, where again, if you can lose access by just asking a question that may rub an official the wrong way. So how do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but I think you just have to be really good at what you do. I mean, you have to know all of
It's
your
the answer to
avenues.
most things, but it's super complicated to get to.
I mean, I think, so, you talk about like getting a scoop, right? Why does an agency give one media outlet a scoop and not another media outlet, right? And my take on that is you have to be good enough to kind of force their hand, right? You have to know, where are all the records? What kind of records can I break? What are my sources inside?
Okay.
If you know enough, then you can really, I mean, you can't do everything, right?
Right.
Like, if a public official wants to shut you out, they can shut you out.
They shut you out.
But that leads you down. So this is total nerdy journalism, right?
Please, go deep.
But that leads you down a different path. So a public official shuts you out. What that means is as a journalist, you turn more towards records and more towards inside sources. Well, inside sources who are willing to talk are often people who are unhappy. So if an official shuts you out, they have to recognize that's what they just opened up.
Gotcha.
They have to understand it's a balancing act. So any good reporter has all of those things at their disposal, right? And then you use them to get the kind of information that you want to get. I mean, the bottom line, though, is you have to be able to just hold officials accountable in your actual speech. So when I sit down with somebody, I have to know where I'm going, what I'm looking for, and then I have to, like, will them. This is going to sound really lame, but I have to, like, will them into answering the question. Like, you just can't let someone slide. So if they're not answering the question, you have to keep going until they answer the question.
Have you ever turned down a scoop out of just like, it's too toxic?
Oh God, yes.
But it could have advanced your clicks would have been great, or the story would have been way juicier. Whatever, however you want to phrase it, it could have helped you, and you turned it down.
We've done that and made the mistake, and it was a bad decision. We should have run with it. We've done it and run with it, and it was a bad decision. And we've done it right. I mean, we've done, you do this every single day. You make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So what do? You just kind of like, okay, learn from that, move along. I mean, one of the things I love about journalism, and one of the reasons I'm interested in the editing end, is what other field do you have where every single day you have a deliverable, right?
Right.
You're doing something every day. So that means every single day should be a chance to learn, right? Oh, look at this. I did this well this time. I didn't do this well. I got to get better at this, not better at this.
Right.
Sorry, super nerdy journalism.
No,
it's fantastic. We did have a correction. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. Close enough.
No, it wasn't. It was 64.
We had somebody comment. It says it here. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Whoever said that, thank you for commenting. That's very
bring it in.
Right?
It's all good.
I mean, that's amazing. Actually, that is totally incredible.
It is. It was very nice, Jeff, for throwing that out. But either way, still super close. I just wanted to throw that out. So some of the stories, if we go to David Hunn's site, our page on stltoday.com. Gardner, I know we joke about this stuff, but we're all super interested in the St. Louis area, the Better Together story.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the guy in here right now, and I'm curious.
Again, I love this. Right?
As,
The guy.
Well, on the Better Together end, Better Together STL end, have you been to all the forums?
No, not all of them. I've been
Okay.
to. So I've been to only one.
Which one was that?
In North County in Delwood. It wasn't
Okay.
Delwood, but it was Tommy Pearson's church.
Okay.
Greater Mark's Family Church, something like that.
Okay.
Greater St. Mark's Family Church.
I was just wondering how those have been going, number one. Because the one, if I could have gone, and I haven't been able to go to any of them, I would have went to the DePere one.
So Nassim Benchaben went to that. One
That
of our
one?
reporters. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was exactly as you would have expected.
That's why I would have gone to that one, is because I'm like, there's the one at the Carpenter's Hall, there's the one with the guy, but I'm like, the DePere one is kind of the nexus of the reactions I'm looking for. And how I want to see how people in those areas are. We brought up the Chesterfield County joke.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The T-shirts
that was going on
available
there.
online right now.
They are available still. For now.
Are
Get
there
'em-
really t-shirts?
Oh yeah.
Can we get David a T-shirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get one made.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to pay for it. You guys know that.
Oh,
But
that's right.
I will.
What?
That's a great T-shirt.
You know we have
I'm in on
cameras.
that.
They just picked up you winking at us really hard, man. It's-
I was
Kidding, that
just
didn't
wondering
happen.
what the reaction has been initially, because I'll be honest from my perspective. I laughed at the Chesterfield reaction right away because the answer to fragmentation and issues within fragmentation was more fragmentation without really knowing what's
You
going
mean
on.
dividing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, just what the reaction you have gauged from people initially with this has been.
Well, I mean,
just the general masses. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying? Yeah.
more from the people as opposed to the people
the
involved with the
officials.
plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
just the people themselves.
Yeah, that's a great question because I think that it's actually more nuanced than we imagine. So you have a vocal, angry crowd, and I get a lot of phone calls from folks who are angry. So we definitely get folks saying, I don't want the city. I left the city. I never want to be a part of the city again. Like, I'm not taking on their debt. There's people who are angry about the tax. I mean, this plan is at its root kind of like a typical Democrat versus Republican
Yeah,
plan,
absolutely.
right? Like, so they're going to combo everything. They're going to share taxes, and they're going to distribute services to those most needy. I mean, that's a kind of a Democratic ideal, right? Folks who don't like it are often like free market. Like, we don't think this is how it should go. If a North County city is going to crash and burn, they should crash and burn. Something will rise up from the ashes. Like, that's like a typical Republican philosophy. Like, that's okay. Like, those are good. That's a good argument for us to have as a
I
community.
could absolutely understand too if you've built up a life and it's whether it's true or you perceive it that you've done it mostly on your own and your family's safe and you've acquired land and you're having a good life, and then all of a sudden people that you correctly or incorrectly see as not the way I get why people get tunnel vision on this. It is completely understandable.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Even though I'm for the unification, I get the argument. I totally get it.
So on one hand, you have like kind of these kinds of ideologies coming out, right? But on the other hand, what I think is really fascinating is you have a whole lot of people who, and I mean 74 to, early 20s, who say like, this is probably what I hear more than anything. I think things need to change in St. Louis.
Right.
I agree with the idea of a unification, but I don't like this. I don't like that. Like, why does Stanger get? Now he doesn't, of course.
Right.
But why does Stanger get to be mayor unelected?
Right.
Why are they going? I mean, the biggest one I get, of course, is why is it a statewide vote? It should be a
Right.
local vote.
Right.
So those are the two that I could probably get the most. And even then, a lot of those folks are like, I mean, let's say a third of them are like, we want to see something change. We just don't like this plan.
Right. And then there's even things with it. And you brought up why the statewide vote. And as it's been explained, it's because the courts are merging, the police departments are merging. That would be an adjustment to the Missouri Constitution or something along those lines. So it would have to be a statewide vote. I guess the follow-up question to that from someone from me would be like, was there another way to do it without that?
Well, so there is, and we actually got that out of Dave Leipoltz. We had a really cool podcast. Sorry,
No, yeah,
I guess
we're
I'm
gonna.
like tapping myself on the
Yeah, we're
'cause
gonna.
Plug away.
You got a
I-
podcast going with the Post now, right?
Yeah, right. So
Okay.
we do it whenever we can. I mean, it's not as regular as it should be, frankly.
What's it called?
Inside the Post Dispatch.
Inside the
Very
Post Dispatch
clever.
with David.
Very
Nice.
clever.
I see it. Marketing. I see y'all.
No, Jacob Barker runs it pretty much.
Yeah.
And Bryce, the guy who covers environment, farming,
Sure.
And then Jeremy Kohler's on it a lot.
Okay.
But yeah. So point being, we put Dave Leipoldts and Pat Kelly. So Dave Leipoldts, who's like the research director for Better Together, and Pat Kelly, who's the head of the municipal league. We put them in the same room, which was fun.
Yeah.
And we just kind of stood back and said, okay, you guys go. And Pat got out of Dave that they could have done another vote. They could have had, what they could have done is had a kind of like enabling legislation. So like, okay, we're gonna pass this. It's gonna go like they're doing it now, initiative petition.
Right.
And then everybody votes on it statewide, but that doesn't pass it in the city and county. That allows any city and county to pass it for themselves. So they could have done that.
I see.
And they didn't. They chose not to.
Right.
And the reason that they say they chose not to is because they feel like that would have delayed them. So then they would have had to get another campaign, another set of votes. You would have had a second vote in the city and county. And they're like, this is urgent. Like, people are suffering. We need to get this done right away.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair, I understand the urgency. I think there is urgency.
I agree.
And from my perspective too, and you brought it up earlier, we were discussing education.
Yeah.
It seems like there must have been pushback in what their research taught them. Why not include the school districts with everything within this too?
So I don't think they exactly admitted this, but they roughly just said it's too hard.
Okay.
I mean,
It is. I mean, yes, that's that's an interesting answer, but I think you're right. I think that would probably stir the hornet's nest more than anything,
And maybe-
because if it's one thing I've learned about school districts in the St. Louis metro area, they play hardball. They play serious hardball. So I can see that
Even
being legal
people with,
challenge
like-
after legal challenge and completely holding up the entire process.
well, and folks would never have voted for it. Right?
Yo,
I
no,
mean,
never. I
What
agree.
a strange thing. In what other industry, sport, or anything can you have a losing record for 40 years and still act
And
as
everybody
if you
loves
have
you?
any negotiating power or anything? That's so crazy.
School districts are just like cities, right? It's just like everything in our lives.
Yes.
If you live in a community, you love your community.
Yes.
And that's one thing that I've seen across the region, right? I don't care who I'm talking to. From north, south, east, west, they all love where they live. Everybody loves where they live.
True.
And that's a weird moment, right? Because
It's tribalism, and it's in our DNA, right?
Yeah.
To appreciate that kind of thing.
so there's some, I don't know, there is some weird dynamics here. Like,
Yes.
so why is it okay for somebody's community to be like given the green light, and somebody else's community to be told they have to? I don't know. It's just a strange.
As an
concerns me a little
outsider, is there anything to? And again, to your journalist, you're very fair. As an outsider, what is something in a thought process or just a flow of the region process that has bothered you or impeded you from getting an answer or some sort of solving question to something that you're seeking out? Is there anything that you've noticed that's fairly unique to St. Louis in that aspect? Because
I mean, one thing I think we have to remember is that every community has these same issues. Like, talk about Chicago politics, right?
Oh, gosh.
yeah, we don't have
I
enough
was just,
time, man. Yeah,
I just seen the stream on their mayoral debates, and it looked, oh, good God.
right.
So, Chicago, nobody's like, oh, Chicago's an awful town, don't move there, because their politics are
Unbelievably
right.
beautiful. Just
It's like
the
Chicago's an
best.
amazing thing,
Right.
right?
It's an amazing city, right.
So, like, for us to say, like, look how awful St. Louis is, I mean, look how crappy politics are. Like, that's just not an outsider's perspective.
Right.
And, these guys, so I mean, but this, to answer your question, sorry, forgive
No,
me,
please.
I'm not dodging.
This is all very interesting.
For some reason or another, St. Louis leaders, I feel like they don't feel like they can just tell us what's happening. Like, they have to like beat around the bush and like
Yes.
dodge and like.
and that's unique to hear in a way.
Oh, I doubt it.
No,
I doubt it.
no.
But
I don't know.
But I know exactly what you're
Maybe
saying.
because there's more of them. Because it's like, who are you again? And
St. Louis does have a unique dodge about itself. It is very unique, and you're right. I think yes, you can probably say that there are cities who have something similar, but there's a unique dodge.
When you bring
when it
90
comes
mayors to the table,
right?
or
And
whatever
it's
it
very,
is.
but there, to your point, there is a little bit of bravado that comes along with that unique dodge, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what cards are you playing for you to be able to dodge so artfully?
Like, who do you think you are?
Especially when we it's almost out in the open, where St. Louis is so almost 5 degrees of separation where you know someone who knows someone who knows what's going on. So for you to try to be like, I don't know what's going on down on Kings Highway, it's like, no, bro, my cousin who works for the post office
And if you
just
speak,
told me.
and if you speak negatively, maybe you're not going to get waved through on something down the line. Like, let's not forget that part.
happens.
It's nice whenever you don't have to follow a rule. And I
Right.
bet that there's a lot of that.
So, I mean, let me give you an example, right? So, a couple weeks ago, an attorney named Chuck Hatfield filed, sent records requests to every single municipality, essentially saying, "Hey, I think you're spending taxpayer money on a campaign against Better Together, and I think that's illegal."
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he sent records requests to all 88 municipalities.
Oh, boy.
And
Is he an Illinois lawyer?
no,
Or no?
Jefferson City.
Jefferson City. Okay.
Yeah, and he's a very well known constitutional, supposed to be very
Chuck
good at his
was
job.
he was involved in the Greitens stuff in some
Yes.
regards,
Okay, got
especially
it.
when testimony was going on before the House committee. He had the line that we all liked: "Cash money is still okay in America."
Oh,
or
okay.
whatever it was.
He's an icon in this
So
show.
he had that line: "Cash money's still okay in America." That was Chuck.
And he is kind of like a bigger than life personality. I mean,
Got
he's
it.
just he kind of exudes bravado on
Right.
the phone, right? so he sends records requests out to every single muni, right? He says that it had nothing to do with Better Together. That meaning he did not coordinate Better Together. Better Together tells me they had no idea it was happening.
If you're listening at home, we just got a mom knows you are lying.
That
look
bless your
from,
heart look. That
yeah,
bless your
David,
heart look.
This is
Bless
going to
your
be.
heart.
This is going to end poorly for.
Oh, yeah,
for
that's
you.
the.
All right, can we get camera 3 and make this into a meme, please, or a GIF? Just shake your head a little more.
I just don't know what to say, right? I don't know what to say.
He's speechless.
This is what I'm talking about. It's like I wouldn't fault. I mean, that's not a dumb move by Better Together,
Right.
right? It's illegal for cities to use public money
Yep.
to campaign.
Right.
I get it. Go after that, right? Send out a nice letter warning the munis not to do it, and slap them on the hand. Whatever you're going to do, right? I get that as a campaign
Right.
strategy. I don't have a problem with it. It's not my job to have a problem with it anyway, right? I'm just
Right.
reporting the news.
Yep.
But again, I just get stumped. I don't even know.
It's tough to watch from the outside too, and I can only imagine being so close to it, like you are, to see the things that I don't know. When things make it to a story, or there are 1,000 things that don't get brought into the story. So to see it go from step to step and get from 1 to 10, I can imagine would be infuriating, maddening, whatever, however you want to say it.
If you could go back to when you decided to become a journalist, what would you say to your younger self? What would you say now that what you've gone through, what you've endured, what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
So I do remember this moment where I was teaching still, and I very much wanted to stay for a third year. And I was driving up, driving up the coast to visit an uncle up north. And I remember I had this old crappy truck, and just spent like that, the hours driving, like thinking about life. And I don't think I would tell myself anything different. I mean, what I love about journalism is this incredible, curiosity that you get to have, right? Where you're just searching, digging, searching. And then there's this catharsis where you get everything you can and you write it all down. And that moment of like getting it all out is just really an incredible moment. So I'm good with the way things work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's David Hunn for you, huh?
Yes, indeed.
I like that a lot. So you're not in the prediction business, but we're
Yeah.
going to put you in the prediction business.
Yeah, we are.
Let me say one thing.
Yeah.
I moved to St. Louis and I met my wife at the end of a bar, and
St. Louis, she native?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we're here again. She knows this. Is not. If she listens to this, it's not going to be.
Hey, bro. The camera picked up your spine shuddering as you said that.
I mean, I knew there was no question. We were always going to come back to St. Louis, right?
Right.
And it's fine. But I
At
really,
Christmas and Easter, sure.
No, I mean, I did not want to spend my entire life in Houston. Like Houston,
Right.
I learned a ton. My editors in Houston were absolutely incredible. Like they pushed me in a way that I really couldn't have been pushed had I stayed here.
All right.
But Houston's really hot and really flat, and I
Yes.
just don't. That is not me, right?
Right.
We got another pro oil story for you, David. We're going to need you to write that up.
I wrote a lot of oil stories. I mean, that's what I went there to do, was cover
Right.
it.
My
Yeah,
favorite
what's
is the
it
Houston
like covering
suburbs.
the energy beat there? I mean, that's like the Cardinals beat here or something. I mean, I
Well,
don't
you
know.
talk about
It's hilarious.
consequences.
It's
From,
hilarious to me that you just picked the Cardinals. for that.
that is
But
kind of that is the controlling force in
Yeah. No, it's,
taxes. No, they don't need those.
Who needs some potholes fixed? Not on my watch. I got Paul Goldschmidt to sign. You better hush up. Shut your mouth, St. Louis. Like, okay.
I was just giving.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Just
DeWitt.
giving Derek and the commission a shout out.
My favorite is too if you just go 20, 30 minutes south of Houston to the suburbs. There's like mansions for like $130,000. I mean, it's very funny how the economy is
well, so
interesting in
so
that area,
that,
or
that
was,
is
I
a
should
weird
say.
part about Houston, right? I mean, and no, that's not right. It is a wonderful part about Houston is they really value their inner city. So, you know, if I was to go to a community like Maplewood, where I live now, well, I don't live there yet, but I will there. I will live there.
Got to get the
soon.
drywallers.
Got to get the drywallers. But if there was a Maplewood in Houston, those houses would be $1.5 million. I mean, you can't like there are neighborhoods that are that nice in central Houston, and you can't afford a house there.
Oh,
so,
wow.
so that means folks of modest means have to live in the outskirts.
Oh, okay.
And that's interesting, right? That's totally not
right.
what's happening in St. Louis.
Right.
And it's a shame because one of the things St. Louis has going for it is its housing stock.
Yes.
I mean, it's stunningly beautiful housing stock.
Oh, absolutely.
I think people don't realize how gorgeous these homes are.
Oh man, we talk about it all the time.
He's getting ready to do a thing in New York for 3 months.
Oh.
How's your research going for couch rental?
Oh yeah. Hey, so New York is expensive. Who knew? I didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that coming. Right?
That was
That's why-
very odd. But no, to speaking to your point about the homes here in St. Louis, you're exactly right. I say that all the time. We were recently, of course, in Soulard for Mardi Gras, and I was like, these homes are just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
just like, wow, this city deserves so much more love because these buildings and like we'll talk about it when we were looking for space for this. Like, there's
Oh my
so many
gosh,
beautiful.
this Kranzberg, the Dot Zach building, there's a theater, there's all this stuff. You couldn't find this would in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Houston, even a space
Your
like this.
space here?
But then
It's not possible
But
for
if
a
you go down
startup.
2 blocks east, you'll see other vintage, beautiful stone-built buildings here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So to your point, you're exactly right. I wish
Well,
there was more tender, loving care
And
to it.
We talked about this on 314 Day. Remember? I
That's
was
March
discuss-
14th, Dave.
Yeah.
Did you guys?
yeah.
Did you guys go to the STL Meg thing?
No.
Have you heard about this campaign?
I've heard. So, okay, this is confusing because we did a project with Vest Soda. John Alexander, local filmmaker, did a video series called STL Made. Now there's a new one, I believe, and I think our friends at the Kranzberg are part of it or
Probably.
have attended it or something. So I've heard about this. Clue us in on
Well,
it. Yeah.
Chris, I cut you off.
No, that's fine.
No, we like to do that. We don't need to. He's
better
He
that
gets
way.
into conspiracy theories and it's, crystals and all kinds of stuff.
So okay, so there's a new campaign. It's a marketing campaign. You know, we've done 1 million of these, right?
Right.
Yep.
But this one is kind of fun. I mean, it's pushing guys like y'all actually. You know, it's pushing folks who are doing like interesting stuff, who are artists or craftsmen or startup businesses. It's pushing that startup scene. It's trying to get people to. But here's my point is, it's really what it's trying to do is persuade St. Louisans that St. Louis is actually pretty cool.
Right.
And that is
'Cause
such
it
a
is.
hard sell.
It is a hard sell. You're exactly right because
It's
people
so weird.
People are. I tell you what, this city is incredibly hard on itself almost all the time. Like even like people when we had the successful PGA Tour championship last summer.
Tiger Woods owns half of St. Louis now. He
Essentially.
could come here and tell people to kick whoever out in the street, and they would be like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Woods."
But everyone you could see on the social feeds were like, everybody be on your best behavior if we want to get the PGA back. All right? We can't mess this up. Everybody, hey, go to the crosswalk. Don't jaywalk. Don't let them people see you jaywalk.
Hey, I'm going to rob somebody on the Metrolink. Is that not going on this
It's like,
weekend?
hey, man, if you going to kill somebody, hey, man, do it on the other side of
Take it
do
to
later,
Illinois.
man. Can y'all wait till at least Sunday night? So it was kind of that thing, and it's very fascinating. You'll see that a lot here in St. Louis.
First
like,
time a gas
you-
station attendant's been nice to somebody coming in.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Yes,
How are
come
you?
right this
It's
way.
just- so St. Louis has this thing where they're just like, incredibly hard on themselves for whatever reason.
And actually, I think it's a little more mischievous than that. I think that it goes back to the thing we were talking about with schools and stuff. They love their community.
Yeah.
But that community next door,
Very
They're
good.
trouble.
Yeah.
not
They
so
are
good.
trouble.
Yeah.
You know, it's
That
the
is very true.
right.
That's
very
and
true.
Those people that bought houses 35 feet with us that go to a different private school.
Right,
watch
yeah.
them.
And
That's
the
my favorite.
further, like, so you live in Webster, Kirkwood's okay.
Right.
Maybe Shrewsbury's all right, but Maplewood gets a little dodgy.
And I know we've joked, like, even just like not even the neighborhoods, but even expanding that, let's do city county again. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a running joke and this is how it is. I remember, and we brought it up earlier when we were talking about, we have a poll question out today. What's the most pressing issue facing St. Louis? Crime, fragmentation, race relations, potholes. But the pothole guy came from, I remember.
Did potholes win?
Let's check it.
It might be winning right now.
Let's see. I'll see. I'll look
But
it
I
up.
remember being on the riverfront when they had the Ways and Means Committee meeting for the NFL stadium.
Yeah.
A 3-hour meeting that was taking place.
Conway ran it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember I snuck a cigarette with him behind the little days. So
If it was
The
with
menthol
if it
man?
was with Conway, you weren't sneaking.
we were just standing there.
Right.
So we were. I'm watching all this, but you can definitely. I mean, if someone from the county was talking on the riverfront that day, someone from the city would yell, "Where are you from?" and vice versa. Or it was another way of. I mean, it was like, man, this is what we got in store.
Yeah.
And then, like, I look at the merger stuff going on now, and I'm like, okay, say this doesn't work. So then what's next for St. Louis? And we're looking at, reducing the number of aldermen possibly. And we've talked to aldermen about it, and they're like, well, we really don't have a plan in place. I'm like, you mean don't have a plan in place? How long ago was that vote? There's so many balls in the air right now, and then you throw in what's going on with Stinger, hashtag Sting operation.
Thank you on Twitter. Check that out.
Yeah, we gotta
SEENG.
throw those.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, at times, I'm like,
nice guys.
how is this so hard to keep up with?
Pleasure heart, me, David Hunn.
By the way, David Hunn, he's about to be learning to write at Sesame Street. You have a young child. That should bother you, right? That Sesame
would
Street's
that
bringing
bother
this in to do that.
No.
You've spent almost an hour with us now. Are you disgusted by this?
No, I like this a lot.
Okay.
Sesame Street needs some edge.
You need to get woke. You need to get woke, homie.
I already got a woke Muppet in mind. Boy, it's gonna be so. Gonna have dreads, a face tattoo. This is gonna be a game
Mumble
changer.
rapper
in the
on
children
some
rap.
Face tattoo is woke.
That's I see it on the socials. That's what they tell me. I see the meme.
Did you see? You just put him on his. He accepted your answer. You're the.
Okay,
There's a
yeah,
guy
all
who
right.
needles public officials for more information.
No, I was like, yeah, that's true.
That makes sense. Makes a ton of sense.
Do your research.
I also wanted to make sure I did say hashtag Sting operation. Just for
Oh boy, screaming.
just for David, another hashtag we're using too. Screaming bloody merger.
Yes,
as
that
we
is-
go
that
through
is
all
And you
of
guys
this.
at the Post, have a little fun with your headlines. Get a little juice. Get a little New York Post with it from time to time.
No,
Feel-
we don't have fun. That's not our job. Just report the
I
news.
can tell from this extremely dry conversation we've had today.
We just report the news. That's why I like podcasts so much. We drop the F-bomb.
Do you want to freely let one fly?
No, Dave, your kids could be
you gotta-
watching at home. You don't want that.
If they're tuned into the show, I have an issue with him as a parent. They should not be watching this. This is bad
Yeah, that's also
content.
very
No, he's in school.
Okay, good.
At the wonderful school.
The wonderful school.
At We Are Live
You just
Radio
call
on
it
Twitter.
that.
Man, why'd you have to give away the real name of my kid's school? Wouldn't that be the best name for a little school in Maplewood?
The wonderful school. That is actually the kind of ways that we name schools in St. Louis.
Basically.
Yeah.
The wonderful school.
To mask all the despair behind it. On We Are Live
Went
Radio's
dark fast.
Twitter account.
He has lunch with Louis Black once, and all of a sudden he's like, well, I'm edgy now.
No, I interrupted his lunch. Let's be honest. From the melee, which of these pressing issues facing the St. Louis region is the most concerning? Coming in at 14%, I regret to inform potholes.
What's number
People
one?
got serious.
I was
gonna
gonna
say, people
race
took this very
relations,
seriously.
21%, fragmentation, 23%, crime, 42%.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you pull your heads up out of the sand for this poll? Really, guys? How does
Crime
how
may
does
be
potholes not win?
Crime can't be that bad because then everybody got a gun.
Yeah.
So,
And
I mean, what's
apparently,
the
42%
big
of the
deal?
people have not driven over the Compton Bridge.
Yes. Thank you.
Because then they
Fallujah.
put potholes, not crime.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or even I go through Forest Park once a day. They just repaved in that area by the Muni.
Good for you.
Snow came, and here we go. We got 2 potholes there already. I'm like, oh no, they just redid this.
What the hell is Domino's?
Yeah,
Wasn't
we
that
need
their
them.
thing? Wasn't their thing to go around the country and fix?
They were going to different
remember
cities.
They leaving the lane open for Papa
We
John's to make
would
a
have thrown a
comeback.
banner on the
Order a lot of
arch.
pizza.
Yes.
Bring us a lot of pizza.
That's a lot of damn.
Fix those
pizza.
potholes while you're at it.
Where you at, emos? Help us out.
David Freeze may have done something for the Cardinals, but he didn't do anything for our potholes.
doing
now.
nothing
Let's
on
have that.
potholes. I don't care for
So
that.
I can't get this out of my head. You were talking about fragmentation and cities and infighting and even just being like, oh, watch out for Maplewood. What if we were to pick weapons for like certain municipalities or areas? Like if we made somebody from Frontenac and Town and Country go at it, would it be just like a Louis Vuitton purse versus an iPad? Like if
that's
you were
probably how it would
picking
work, yeah.
weapons for these folks, like do we need to make that happen?
I
That
like-
could be it is tournament season.
I'm about to say you are breaking it down like an episode of Game of Thrones, like North
Yeah.
County's the House of Lannister and things
Right.
like that. So that would be. Let's do that.
You know what? I bet you love unsolicited opinions on what you should write about.
But
Make
this is
that
what
your
you
next
should do. You
story.
should definitely write about that.
What
Then
weapons?
how,
they would
how,
use?
how Game of
Hypothetically,
How about this? How about this idea? Do a listicle
Now,
about how
Blackjack-
Game of Thrones is sort of like what's going on with the city-county merger. You get more clicks, more retweets.
Yep.
Boom.
national story?
Boom.
Blackjack. They could use a blackjack.
You're the white Sean King after that. You do that, people are like, oh, wow.
That's kind of redundant.
He is white. isn't
Okay,
he?
thank you.
He is white.
Before you get out of here, I'm making you do. You can abstain, but for Better Together specifically, or just this issue, does a merger happen, and where do you see whatever decision is made affecting St. Louis in the next 5 years? Like, say it doesn't
you want me to
happen,
predict whether or not this is gonna.
happen or work either way. So say it goes the other way. I mean, do we
Okay,
still?
so here's what I think. I think that they have a ton of money, right? And they have big pockets, deep pockets. I think
I'll
is the
take either.
phrase.
Either
Yeah.
one.
So they're going to have enough money to win statewide, and they're smart folks.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to have enough money to win statewide. I think that
You've already said this, but it's ramping. I feel it ramping up. Right, they're in your face right now. They're making themselves known.
well they're plotting now.
Got it. Okay.
But they're going to start their campaign after all the legal challenges are over because they're not going to start collecting signatures and all that stuff until the legal challenges. There's a period where folks can file suit essentially against it, and that period is where I think it's going to be really interesting. My guess is that the Muni League and the municipal officials are going to. I mean, they are banding together. They are already starting to do their research on how to fight this. I think they're going to do something, maybe even like federal in nature. Constitutional in nature.
Interesting.
I mean, that's what I would guess.
Interesting.
And I think that argument is going to look like, hey, essentially, the moral side of that argument is going to be people. You can't make decisions for us.
Right,
It's
right,
unconstitutional.
right.
I think we're going to see something like that. I'm probably wrong. You guys are probably going to laugh at me in like a month when it's
We're
not
big
gonna
on
happen,
laughing
right?
at people that give us.
But
an
you
hour
were
at a
you were
time.
very accurate in your reporting of the NFL situation, and so I follow you. I've been
Thank
even
you.
when you went to Houston, I still made sure I kept following you.
And you read a
because
lot of oil stories.
I read more than I was like, well, what David's writing about it's got to be interesting, right?
I've got
So-
it. Was it?
It was. Man, tell you
Which
what,
article-
Texas has oil.
Good for you.
Like what?
I love that. That's what you took out of those stories. This falls into the work your ass off for weeks.
Yep.
And Texas has.
That's the
So
piece.
Texas has oil. Interesting.
Now, is Sugarland made up? Is that what it's
Yes.
called in the Sugarland area?
Yeah.
Okay. There's
Yeah.
an area with sugar in it.
Oh.
That's the old imperial sugar plantation. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
It is.
And you almost like got back into the graces of one Stan Kroenke. Didn't he buy up 2/3 of Texas recently?
No.
He brought
That's
that
incredibly inaccurate.
He brought up. He bought all that property in Texas, right? To basically have
He bought a ranch.
He bought a plantation.
I thought that was a
It was like it was
Montana
people who was living already
Well,
on
he's
there.
got. I think
He's got a Montana.
he owns half of Montana.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
He bought a ranch in Texas that was like the largest single fence ranch in Texas or something like that.
And actually put people out of their homes.
Yes, people that had lived there without leases,
So
but were
so
allowed
against
to
his
live there.
character.
yeah, that's what we're
I
right.
I won't say what I believe he did, why he bought the ranch. I don't want to involve David with that.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
that stuff.
Just because, theoretically someone might buy that to hunt the greatest game of all, human.
this the conspiracy part?
Yeah, here it is.
That's
Yeah.
it. I told you.
He's a big-
I'll show myself.
No, Crocky's a big wild pig enthusiast. He likes to hunt them from a helicopter. So, David Hunn, follow him on Twitter. Check out all the stories. Remember more than one throwaway line from his stories. At David Hunn, Hunn on Twitter. That's where you can find
Actually,
him.
I'm cool with just one throwaway line.
That's fine.
If that's what you want, if that's what they remember, if they remember one thing from every story I write, that is fantastic.
Okay.
Remembering is remembering. We'll just say that, right?
The saying.
I'm gonna walk out on that
Yeah, it's a
philosophical
saying.
note.
You need
Remembering.
you need a tagline, guy?
Is remembering.
Remembering is remembering.
Again, David Hunn, follow him. Check out his stories. So many great in-depth interviews and just everything that's happening, the podcast, all that good stuff. David Hunn, thank you so much for coming in, man.
Such a pleasure.
What a good time. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do fair or foul submissions so we don't have to subject David to that as he is a journalistic professional. Sound good?
It sounds cool to me.
We'll take a quick break and be right back. Thank you, David.
We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live, live, live. We are live.
Welcome back to We Are Live.
You guys are jerks.
Oh, David Hunn from the Post.
How delightful was he?
Blessed us with some wonderful, wonderful conversation.
We were just I think we can go to noon. I think we can go about for another 2 hours. That was a
think we
very delightful
definitely could've.
time with David. We learned a lot. We learned so much. We're gonna have to have David back quickly because we're now into overtime.
Yeah, let's just we'll just push fair or foul to tomorrow. We'll do that. We'll
Hey,
let
what
him
the
build
hell?
up.
Yo,
We need
wait.
it. We need some more. We need some more submissions. So we'll same topic tomorrow. We'll do that. You want to talk to
mother-
David Hunn more?
Oh, okay.
You know what?
All right.
You got it.
This is the first time in the history of this show that we won't be able to do fair or foul.
We got things to do, people to see and meet with, and everything else.
Chris Demons an ass. Fair. All right, cool. We at least got one fair or foul in there.
Okay,
All
there
right.
we
Does
go.
that count, Gardner? Is that good?
Sure.
Okay. Excellent.
Gardner, great work today. Big thanks to Tommy Bannister from Circa Properties, Buzz's Hawaiian Grill, the wonderful Dr. Ed from Hillside Animal Hospital, all of our great sponsors here on We Are Live. Look at Gardner go. Look at him go. Gateway Powder Coating. We love all of you for tuning in. And, man, share this with your friends because David Hunn was just an absolute delight. We got to have him back real soon. So follow David on Twitter. Follow us. And if you haven't, we'd love some more iTunes reviews. Hook us up with those. 5 stars, baby. Travis, great work today, sir. We're back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. We'll see you then.
Peace.